toasting, joking too. Sipping and roasting is what we do. Light 'em up, drink 'em down. Whiskey and cigars all around. Cheers, y'all.
That sounds like a party. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza known internationally as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. Smokin' and Toastin' number 285.
Man, I think we have to up our game.
Yeah?
That was, as of last week, I think almost exactly halfway to 300.
Yeah.
I think we are now 5/8 of the way to 300.
5/8 of the way.
Yes.
That's good to know. I like how you've broken it down and become more specific.
Yeah,
I think that's going to work.
It's important to keep these things right where they need to be.
Listen, I was always a little slow in math. It wasn't my best subject, and I was promised there'd be no math when we started Smoking and Toasting. But that turns out not to be true. There's all kinds of math. Yeah. But in any case, welcome.
How many beers we have? How many shows we have?
How high is the ABV? There's numbers everywhere. It's just the way it is. Welcome to the program, ladies and gentlemen. We are all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. My name is Cruze. My co-host is the one and only Ian Barry.
Hi,
welcome
y'all.
to the Progue. And we have Doug on the Wheels of Steel, Doug Lawrence, and Adam is our executive producer in a booth somewhere in Washington, D.C. So we
in a booth. He's in a coffee shop.
Yeah,
drinking,
you totally know he is man bun on his head,
Right.
totally styling.
He's at home in his pajamas.
Most likely.
Or that.
Well, welcome to the program. It's show number 285. As I mentioned, today's show, we will talk about how tequila is taking over, plus the best brewery tap rooms. Not only are you and I going to share some of our favorites.
I have had tequila take over in an evening before.
Yes, well, tequila is very good at taking over. And in fact, we're going to have some take over the show here in a little bit. We're going to be trying some Lalo Blanco.
I have never seen
tequila.
this before.
I had some at a bar a couple of weeks ago. It's what the bartender was making a margarita for my wife using that, and he said, "Oh, it's really, really good." And I was like, "Okay, well, why don't you just pour me just a little, like an individual shot of it?" And I thought we got to try this one on the show.
Oh, nice.
So, but I have not, as you can tell by looking at the bottle, and I have not done my normal courtesy of clearing away the plastic so you don't get a.
We're not going to tell HR about this
Yeah.
because if in case there's a slight plastic cut or
exactly,
slate spill.
I haven't cleared the neck
That's right.
to create. I usually try to do this for you, but I actually had to pick this up on the way in, and the reason that happened was because we were scheduled to have Sean Anger from Fox and Seeker on today, and at the last minute, someone in his family tested positive for COVID, and so out of an abundance of caution, Sean is going to reschedule with us and come back once.
I'm for it. I can't wait to see him.
Negative,
and I hope they're doing well.
And I hope so too. And I'm excited about having him on the show because he was bringing their bourbon.
Big news.
Yeah,
they got a bourbon ready.
So they started with gin and vodka, which obviously there's not the kind of aging involved there, so you're able to get those spirits out of the market right away.
A lot of spirit companies start off that way because you can't open up a brand and have a 7-year-old whiskey.
Right? Yeah. If you did, you started 7 years ago.
Unless you started 7 years ago.
Exactly.
So it takes a while to get that product, and a lot of times what those brands do is they bring in a product, a pre-made product.
Yeah.
And then they'll do some of the finishing and those kind of things themselves. But I'm pretty excited to see this.
It's going to be good. So we'll reschedule him and get him in here. Also, want to thank our special guest from last week, Nathan Barkman from Rio Brazos Distilling, who always has a better time on the show than he thinks he's going to have. Have you noticed that? Whenever the show's over, he's like, "Well, that was really fun."
Yeah,
it's like,
well, he's so fun.
Like, you've been here several times.
Yeah,
Nathan.
he's 3 times now. Yeah,
so
he's so fun. He's such a great guest.
Great guest, and boy, was that whiskey good.
Woo, man,
baby. That was good. So we're going to do some tasting today. In addition to the Lalo Blanco tequila, we'll be tasting what I think will be some very interesting beers from Legal Draft Brewing Company in Arlington, Texas. These are the guys that I guess they must be former lawyers.
They have to
all
be,
of
right?
their beers have some kind of legal name or legal reference in their name or their subtitle. We'll be trying, though, one that doesn't. It's Nowhere But Texas. It's their premium lager.
Nowhere But Texas.
Yeah, so
I love it.
So there's not really a legal, angle to that.
Nowhere But Texas sounds like the kind of line that starts a story.
Nowhere But Texas.
Not like, but not entirely unlike a Florida man.
right. Only generally speaking, it's not quite as predictably
Nowhere in
stupid.
Texas.
Yes. No, but it doesn't Nowhere in Texas. That sounds like it would be the first line in the movie, and it would be narrated by Sam Elliott. Nowhere But Texas.
Nowhere But Texas.
And then he'd go on and in that amazing voice.
Damn,
of his.
that hurts, don't it, mijo?
Exactly. and always it's because
that's
of his
the best
mustache.
part of that
always,
movie.
always looks like
It's
he's
like chewing past the mustache.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll try their Nowhere But Texas premium lager. We'll also be tasting from one of our favorites and one of the most creative breweries in the world, Prairie Artisan Ales.
Oh, man.
Out of Oklahoma City. We'll be tasting their peanut butter and jelly squeeze.
Yes.
It's a sour
See, this
ale.
is all brand new to me because I didn't even have a chance to look at the show notes.
Yeah, so-
I lie. I saw that they were there, and then I was like, I'll look at them later, and then I totally forgot about it until I was on my way here, and,
So then you also don't know that we're going to be tasting from Martin House Brewing Company in Fort Worth, Texas. We're going to be tasting their Morning Sunshine.
Morning sunshine.
And there is a comma there, so it's not like Morning Sunshine,
No, it's morning.
but it's more like a greeting, like Morning Sunshine.
Nice.
It is a coffee stout with maple syrup.
Nice.
So you're always talking about, things that you want to just like pour on
onto a
pancakes
pancake,
or
yeah.
perhaps on your nipples.
Oh, waffle.
And,
Well, it has to be pretty special if I want to put it on my nipples.
Well, we'll see if this
Because they're
makes
not sensitive or anything.
Well, we'll see if this makes the nipple cut then when we try this from Martin House Brewing. But I know I'm actually really excited about this. Got a can of this, about a month and a half ago. And just we've had other things going on the show, and it's been in my refrigerator, and I've been so tempted to just
It's
go
been
ahead and
taunting
drink
you.
it. Yeah, but I haven't. I managed to hold out, so we'll be trying it for the first time.
I have this picture of you sitting out late at night having a cigar on your patio and hearing a voice going, Cruze, I'd like to fulfill my beer destiny.
Morning sunshine. I am cold and in your beer fridge right now.
And technically it's after 12, so
That's
it is
right.
morning.
It is morning, exactly. So also tell you about some very interesting cigars to watch for today. The FDA is facing a bit of a backlash over their proposed ban of flavored cigars. And we kind of thought that this would be like inevitable, but there's been some backlash, so we'll see what happens with this, and we'll tell you about it. Plus, I mentioned we were going to talk about brewery taprooms. So a couple of different things we're going to look at. An article that is really interesting called 9 Remarkable Brewery Taprooms to Put on Your Bucket List. And then there's another list we have, the best.
That's good because the list I have is markable brewery taprooms.
And this is remarkable.
Right.
Yeah. And then in addition to that, we have a list of the best craft breweries in California. So we'll be taking a look at those. I know we have some listeners in California, but one of the things about California is that almost everybody goes there to visit at some point.
Yes.
So we will give you some places that you might want to try when you're there.
Oh, California is a nice place to visit.
It very much is. And then a whole different kind of craft beer experience that's not bad. And I'll just leave it there for now.
I don't know what's happening.
Nor should you. We also will have drinking news. Believe it or not, that's not the drinking news story. We also will have drinking news, and our drinking news teaser headline for today is: I had to take my gator to the liquor store.
What? Do I have to change the song?
You might, yeah, you might. After today, we will see. We will see when we get there. So, there's new data out for craft beer, and it's very encouraging. After obviously, craft beer had a tough go of it during the most lockdown era of the pandemic.
The early days of the pandemic,
Yeah.
especially.
Really
We lost
tough.
some great breweries.
Because so many, and the biggest thing that hurt breweries wasn't that they couldn't keep making beer, and even some of them managed to get more beer into grocery stores and liquor stores, and they managed to get things like curbside pickup at the brewery. But the
Yeah.
thing that hurt them the most is a lot of, especially smaller local breweries, would have some pretty good deals to be on tap at different bars around the city, and those bars were all shut down. Wherever you live, wherever you were, that is what it was looking like. So the fact that the sun is finally shining again is a reason to celebrate for the craft beer industry, even if a few clouds are still in sight. That is the feeling that this article says that one gets when looking over the recently released data from the Brewers Association, and it highlights a pretty robust rebound from the losses that craft beer suffered during the pandemic. Now, obviously, we lost some breweries altogether.
And they aren't coming back, unfortunately. But
Right. So during 2020, craft beer declined in volume for the first time ever, by the way. It was down 9%, which, if you think about it,
that's still big.
Yeah, it's not nearly as bad as it could have been.
That's less than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. That was, of course, the mass closing of bars and tasting rooms and seemingly any kind of spot, that you could go and just sit and have a craft beer. But 2021 delivered some good news. Volume growth was up 7.9% with almost 24.5 million barrels produced. And although that was below the 2019 number of 26.3 million barrels, craft beer's growth numbers, this is the thing I got the most excited about. The growth numbers for craft beer outpaced the entire American beer market's growth of 1.0%. So in other words, when beer kind of came roaring back, it was craft beer that roared the loudest.
Craft beer's back, baby.
Yeah. So and part of that could be because it was still very easy to find, a Bud or a Miller or a Coors, at your local convenience store.
Yeah, the
grocery
convenience
store.
store's always going to have it.
Yeah, it's always going to have it, and I'm sure a lot of that was still drawn. But the fact is, plenty of that beer gets consumed in bars and restaurants as well.
Yeah.
Just because a bar has a good tap lineup of craft beer doesn't mean that most of them don't still sell you a Bud Light if that's what you want, or whatever. There are a few with great integrity, and I love that don't.
So there are tap rooms that have bars, bar tap rooms that don't serve the macro brews. I also understand from a business standpoint, you're going to have your macro brews, your Bud Lights, your Miller Lights, your whatever else lights, your Ultra.
Michelob Ultras,
all that stuff. You're going to have that. You're going to have people that drink it. And some people drink it not because that. I mean, the ultralight thing has been its own phenomenon because there's a lot of people, athletes or that are into sports or into, keeping their carbs low and stuff, that's what they drink.
I will tell you, my wife's friend Sherry, who you know Sherry.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sherry's on this very restrictive diet. She's lost a lot of weight, and she is really counting carbs carefully. So she came over and did a pool day with my wife recently, and they were headed to the pool, and she wanted, something to drink, and she said, "Oh, I guess I'll just, I'll run down to the thing and get some Michelob Ultra." And I said, "How many beers are you gonna drink?" She goes, "Oh, just one." I go, "Hang on," and I had in my beer fridge one of those beers.
Daytime?
No, it was the company that does the gluten-free beers with the
Mission.
Mission, thank you.
Yes.
So they had a gluten-free beer that was 3 carbs and 99 calories. And it was just, I got it just to try it.
Nailed it.
And it was an amber ale. And I said, "Here, try this." And so she pops the top on it, takes a drink, and she's like, "This is good." I'm
nice.
Like, yes, another Michelob Ultra drinker bites the dust. But my point is that there's enough low carb and low calorie craft beer out there now that still has some flavor instead of just being beer flavored water.
Let's talk about this for a second, okay? What does craft beer mean right now? Because for a lot of years, we didn't have a lot of choices. I'm going back 20 years ago, okay? So, I'm gonna take us way back.
So you still had St. Arnold and a few of the older
You
craft
had
breweries.
a few of those, but then craft beer started becoming that burgeoning industry. And I remember the joy of walking into a place that had a craft beer selection and just looking for different.
Yes.
It was like,
one of my favorite things to
just
do.
Find something different. And there was a large amount of joy in just that. Not every beer I bought was awesome.
Right.
But that's okay.
But you were trying
and
different
I wanted
things.
to try
Yes,
different things.
Absolutely, I'm so with you.
And then let's go back 10 years ago we have a lot of craft beers out there, and 10 years ago they were all IPAs. Every one of them was IPA.
Pretty much, yeah. All IPAs and the occasional stout. That's it. Yeah.
Yes. And so you had a lot more choices of those things. And it was still fun to do that. Let's find something different. But the market got to be where there was so many. You could actually go, okay, I have some staples in this industry that you go, okay, this is what I buy.
Right.
Nowadays, I think at least my thought process shifts a little bit because I still look for different stuff. I still do. Like there's still that joy of what can I find that's a little different. But I also enjoy looking at craft beer and going, what am I in the mood for now? Because there's so many and so many wonderful ones that I can go, you know what? I'm in the mood for this particular beer, this particular beer, this particular beer. And it allows me to change my palate because I don't understand the thought process of I drink Bud Light and this is the only beer I ever drink because there's a lot of people out there that are like that and insert whatever macro beer, Coors.
Right.
I only drink Coors or I only drink Coors Light or Bud Light or Miller Light or any other light beer like that. And there's people out there that just are so solid about this is what they drink, and that to me is like pizza every day. Pizza's fine,
Right.
But every day,
really
I just don't want pizza every day or spaghetti every day. I just don't want that.
Right.
You know, and I want different things. I want to try. In a night where I sit down and have 2 or 3 beers,
Right.
I'm usually going to have 1 to 2 different beers,
Right.
like just for something different
Sure,
to try.
sure,
you know?
absolutely.
Like, I very much like that, and so I love the fact that there are so many, but I also enjoy tremendously, and I think we'll touch on this when we talk about tap rooms. I enjoy the fact that you can go to a tap room and just pick the beer that they have,
Right?
And they don't sell Bud Light or Miller Lite,
Right, exactly. You're there to try.
You're
their
there to try
beers.
their beer,
Absolutely,
and experience their.
I remember trying a watermelon goza at Brash.
Oh yeah,
that blew my mind. I would never have bought it at the store. You know what I mean? It just wouldn't have been something that I chose. But I was like, looking up at the board. Let's try the water. I'm just here. It's just a glass, right?
Yeah.
I'm not buying a 6-pack. And I remember tasting it and going, oh my God, this is like, it's watermelon. It's
Right.
salty. It's
So
delicious.
good. Right.
Yeah. And it's a beer.
And
Yay.
Brash is hot.
Yeah.
Like that's a hot tap room.
It's a hot tap room, as in like 100 degrees inside.
Yeah,
It is really hot.
No AC.
Yeah. They're when we do our little list, they won't make my favorite list, and it has nothing to do with their beer. It's just too damn hot in there. Oh, but anyway, when we'll get to that a little bit later on. But I did want to ask you. Back in the day when you had those first staples you mentioned, right? What were yours? I know what like mine were kind of progressively before it got to the point where you could find a lot of craft beer everywhere.
We talked about it briefly on last week's show. Is the New Belgium 1554?
Yeah.
I used to buy it by the case.
Oh, very nice.
What a great and different beer that was.
Yep,
And
yep.
I got turned on to that. I was at a bar in town called Rudyard's. I think my band was playing that night. And I got turned on to that because the New Belgium rep was there.
Oh, cool.
And we just got to chatting, and he's like, well, what kind of beer you like? And I just kind of explained, and he goes, oh, well, you need to try this. And he hands me a sip of, a short glass of that 1550. I was like, this is brilliant,
Mm-hmm.
And that turned me on to that. Other staples, of course, New Belgium Fat Tire is absolutely fantastic. Yep. Shiner has always been a staple to me, and I think that counts either way
for sure. Yeah.
in this list. Shiner has always been one of those staples. I'm trying to think. Flying Dog.
Oh, Flying Dog.
Flying Dog made a few beers that I was so happy with in the earlier days, but they made a barley wine called Horn Dog that for about 2 years.
That was your jam.
I don't know that I remember all of those 2 years. Then other ones. Dogfish Head 90-minute IPA.
Yep.
Is unbelievable. There's just so many of those really good, and I like some imports too, like Meridsu. The Brune, the Triple is amazing. Brother Thelonious from North Coast was an absolute. And back then, you could only get it in a bomber, so you were committed. Yeah. And I promise you, one bomber,
you were committed.
You were definitely committed at that point.
For me, I think Harpoon IPA was what started it for me. I was in Boston, living in Boston at the time, and that was the first beer that I ever remember that I just fell in love with. Like I was just like nuts about it. Shiner Bock, of course, as you mentioned, and then when I moved back to Houston, and it was St. Arnold Alyssa. Mm-hmm. This is before Art Car, before the Juicy and the stuff that they have out now, and then from there, believe it or not, Hopadillo. From
Hopadillo, when it came out, was a mighty
thing. When it
thing.
came out, I was just I did kind of burn myself out on it, but once I moved past Hopadillo was when my my horizons got broadened a lot, and I started just trying so many different things.
I sadly left out the St. Arnold Brown Ale.
Oh, the Brown Ale's great.
There were a few bars in town that I used to play at /frequent /friends worked there that had Brown Ale on tap, and I did my best to drink that keg dry so they get fresh ones all the time.
One that I left out, Magic Hat No. 9.
Yeah, I got turned out of that kind of late.
Yeah,
beer.
It was from like the New England area, so it was readily available.
I remember it made it down here probably 15 years ago, or like mid 2000s, somewhere in there. But and by the time I had it, I already had a whole bunch of other stuff that kind of was in that wheelhouse that I like. But great beer.
A couple of other things that I remember. I'm now blanking on the brewery. They were out of New Hampshire, and they had a USB that was just out of this.
ESB or USB?
I'm sorry, ESB. USB. I'm thinking about the cable. Sorry, brain fart. No, it was. I'll think of them in a minute. But the other one. And I used to get this on airplanes, believe it or not, when I would fly.
Really?
Pete's Wicked Summer Ale.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think Pete's Wicked's even still in business now.
No, I remember Pete's Wicked,
they had a
though.
summer ale that was out of this world. It was just so crisp and drinkable, and it was just one of my. Whenever it would come out every season, I would absolutely get it. I'll think of the name of that other brewery. This is what happens when
blurt it out when it happens.
This is what happens when we don't do the lists ahead of time, but we just kind of freewheel. So speaking of things we have a tendency to write some notes for, did you have a chance to smoke anything interesting this week?
I did. I sat out on my patio today.
Nice.
I went with old school today. I went with something that I've had. I would guess conservatively, I would have 50 of these over the years. It was an absolute go-to cigar for me, and I happened by. I was at Lone Star Cigars earlier this week, and happened by, and they had the Illusione MJ12, which I haven't been able to find very much recently. Like a lot of places are just out of it.
That's kind of been a favorite of yours for a while.
Yeah, and I really love the MJ12, and it's weird because they have that whole MJ line. Or they have that whole line. It's not the MJ line, but the MJ12 stands for Majestic 12, which is kind of a hail to the crew that was in charge of the Area 51.
Cool.
So yeah, there's a weird story there. You can look it up. It's kind of fun.
It.
But anyway, the MJ12 is different from that entire line because it's the only one that's wrapped in tinfoil or
right.
Whatever.
It's like the foil wrap.
Right. And it's a big cigar. It's a 6x56 Toro, or Toro Gordo, I guess it would be called. It's got a Nicaraguan Corojo wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, Nicaraguan filler, so total Nicaraguan puro. And I think that whole line is like this. The appearance on this, and you'll see in the pictures too. I took a picture of the. You'll see the foil wrap. You'll see all the different things about it, but the appearance, smooth, leathery to the touch, many small veins going over all the way through it, firm overall, very hearty feeling cigar. Like it feels hefty a little bit, I think it says hearty on my list, but I think I put in hefty and they autocorrect.
Oh yeah, autocorrect can be sometimes much more comical than that. Believe me.
It has a single white label. Once you peel past the foil, it just says Illusione MJ12. There was a flaw in the wrapper, and you'll see that in this picture here, where right by the cap there was a little split in the wrapper, but it looked like it happened while it was rolled, not after. It looked like an actual. Flaw that happened. The pre-light sniff on this barnyard leather earth. That just straight ahead. Like that's what it smells like. The pre-light draw on this, I used a punch, had a medium draw, earth, fermented hay, leather. The initial light on this Nicaraguan Pepper Blast song coming up sometime in the future, and rich earth. I had to fat lip the end of it to compensate for the split.
Split, okay, yeah.
And so you know what I mean, where you put your lip over, because if you're trying to smoke a cigar that has a split in it, it kind of acts like when you get a little hole or a split in your straw where you're not getting the full suction from it, so to speak. Yeah, so I had to fat lip it to kind of compensate for that. To compensate for the flaw. The retrohale, peppery and woody. The first third of this, the flaw became annoying, so I clipped the end, which got me a little closer to
being able to smoke it normally, right?
Being able to smoke it. I still had to fat lip it just a little bit, just not as much, and it was a little more natural. So the pepper backs off dramatically, leaving a luscious leather lingering long on the lips and palate.
Wow.
Like that?
I see what you did there.
I literally alliterated. Sorry. Earth and nutty flavors take turns, whilst the backbone of wood and pepper support the whole flavor structure. Malty flavors appear here, and underlying sweetness begins as a sideshow and becomes a main attraction. The retrohale is cedar, sweet malt, and a kiss of pepper. Solid ash, perfect burn.
Even with the little flaw, it still burned perfectly.
It burned. I mean, it was razor tight burn. The second third of this, pepper ramps up slightly and is perfect complement to the sweet, malty, nutty flavors. Cedar and leather layers keep things interesting. Earth and light floral notes give this a fresh feel to it. Big silky smoke creates pleasant lingering tanginess. Retrohale is sweet nuttiness. Mocha, pepper, solid ash, perfect burn.
Nice.
The last third of the cigar started having a construction issue. A slight canoeing happened.
This is closer to where you had the problem to begin with, right?
A slight canoeing happened, and a split in the wrapper happened. You know how sometimes the end will heat up and it'll swell a little bit.
It just kind of swells and splits, yep.
So that started happening, and again, you'll see that in the picture. I said I'll try tending it first, and so I did. I just hit that canoed section with the lighter. And it seemed to work fine. The flavors were all still intact. I started getting almost a peanut butter note, sweet chocolate malt, and massive sweetness overall. Cedar and pepper, leathery notes are constant. Tending the burn seems to have done the trick. It was burning great at this point in time. Still fat lipping it just a little bit because of that split on it. The retrohale is sweet, nuttiness, mocha, cedar, and pepper, solid ash, sketchy burn.
Oh, sketchy burn, yeah.
Yeah, the last third of the cigar, the burn was a little sketchy. I tended it a couple times there. And I will tell you, on the PVQ, I even wrote this note. This is the first time I've had a single issue with this blend ever.
Right.
And I've had many.
Like you said, even like 50 or so.
I would say conservatively, they came out in like 2009. I've probably had 50 of them by then.
Okay.
You know, like this one of those where I see it, I generally buy it just to toss it in the humidor. I love the cigar. So this is the first one I've ever had, and I'd say 1 in 50 is a pretty good.
First one you've ever had that had a construction issue.
Any kind of construction issue ever. Like all the other ones have always smoked great. I don't remember ever having an issue with the MJ12. So I did not knock off on the score due to construction issues on this cigar because I've had so many before and it's so consistent. So I just took that out of account on this, even though this was my experience that I had today. The PVQ on this, the price to quality index, this is a $10.80 cigar. So it's not cheap. It's premium and getting close to super premium. I still gave it a 5.5. It's still one of my favorite sticks. It is a fantastic stick. It is, however, if these flavors sound great to you, this is a medium plus. Okay, this is not a super light stick, but even at that, if you like mild to medium and you're okay with things being a little more medium, this is not a big
It's not a super big in your face,
like ridiculous medium plus. It's just got a lot of things going on. Big silky smoke. So I'd say try it if you want to bump up a little bit towards full.
Good to know.
But great cigar. Even though I had issues with this particular one, as many as I've had before, I never had issues. So
good to know. All right, we're going to take a break. I'll tell you what about my cigar this week when we come back, and we're also going to get into some tasting. I want to go ahead and start the next segment, Ian, because I'm thirsty.
I'm down with that.
We'll be tasting from Legal Draft Brewing Company. They're Nowhere But Texas Premium Lager coming up. Welcome back It is Smoking and Toasting. This is the program that is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. It's show number 285, and we're not only going to talk about the best brewery tap rooms, including our personal favorites that we've been to, and of course, I haven't been to enough to really say these are the best. I'll just tell you about what my good experiences have been, and you can share the same. But in addition to talking about that, we're going to talk about the fact that tequila is taking over. And so I really hope that that our tequila expert, Liliana, is listening today, because I think she would find this very, very interesting. So, and she probably knows it already.
Yeah, she probably
she
on
knows,
top of it.
She knows all of that stuff and knows how it goes. So, Ian, I was thinking, I'll tell you about my cigar that I smoked this week, and you can bide the time by pouring us a little beer from this first.
I'll do that because you will go on ad nauseum, and
Yes,
that'll
I will.
give me time to drink this beer.
It's the Nowhere But Texas American Lager from Legal Draft. I think Ian is saying
I love this. We have
long-winded.
the Texas
flag
/ American flag kind of colors, and
Nowhere But Texas.
Legal Draft. It says on the can, holds the answer to all my dreams.
I love it. Then that is how people who live in Texas feel about the state. You don't find people who live in just pick a state, Idaho. You don't find the same devotion to their state, any other state than Texas.
Not as much. No, Texas is a little over the top and notorious for that.
For sure. I haven't seen any other states where you regularly notice pickup trucks with a bumper sticker that is made out of the state flag and it says secede.
That's right.
But Texas, you will see it. Anyway, Texas is where I was when I smoked my cigar this week, and I have to tell you, sometimes, I almost feel guilty when I smoke a super premium cigar to talk about it on the show, because I think, people must think I've got the kind of money to smoke these all the time, and I don't. I'm actually really, really cheap when it comes down to it. I am a total cheapskate. And I noticed, by the way, when we did that Best Whiskey for Cheapskates episode, that's been one of our most listened to episodes of the year so far.
Nice.
So apparently we got a lot of cheapskates who listen to the show, and that's fine with me because I identify, and I smoked a cheapskate cigar this week, and I want to tell you about it.
Let's change this word. We're not cheapskates.
What are we?
Economical.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Economically minded. How's that?
Well, I was so economically minded that I recently bought a bundle of the Drew Estate Factory Smokes.
I'm familiar with that.
Yes, I know you are. Now, Drew Estate first became known for their acid line of infused cigars, and then they developed their reputation even further by producing several different lines of premium and super premium non-infused smokes. The Liga Privada is
Privada's
oh man, that's just an amazing cigar. Undercrown is a big hit, and that's not even mentioning some of their. I don't even know. Are some of these ones infused that are the more earthy ones? I don't even know. Are those infused or not? You know what I'm talking about, like the Drew Estate Naturals?
The Naturals, they have a sweet tip on them.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal is, but the Natural line, that's a pretty good cigar if you don't mind the sweet tip on it.
It really is. It really is.
So I don't think those are infused cigars. I think that's why they're called natural. But I don't know that they're making them anymore. I think they stopped making them just recently.
Well, it wasn't until 2018 that Drew Estate made a bold entry into bundled cigars. Now, bundled, less expensive cigars are actually a huge part of the sales of the cigar market. And it's easy to see why. If you're smoking more than just the occasional cigar, you're likely either always on the lookout for a quality, cheaper option, or you're independently wealthy. That's just the way it is. If it's the latter, by the way, would you consider becoming a sponsor of the show? We would appreciate it, and we would promise to smoke only super premium cigars with the money from your sponsorship.
Absolutely.
That would be our thing. We do the super premium reviews for you.
That's right.
That's what we'd be willing to do. Anyway, I know that Factory Smokes are one of your favorite lawnmower cigars.
Yes.
And I thought that this being summer at all, it's a good time to do some tasting notes on them. So enter the Drew Estate Factory Smoke Maduro Toro. To start off, it was a lot prettier than I usually expect a bargain cigar to be. Nice deep brown Maduro wrapper. I wasn't able to learn where the leaf was grown, but the cigars were rolled in Nicaragua, so there's at least
all
a chance.
The information about them is kind of a mystery.
And I did find out that the filler and binder tobacco is from Indonesia. Notes of earth and chocolate were on the pre-light, and the earthiness is really primary. I mean, when you smell these, when you do the cold draw, you either punch it or clip it and do the cold draw. Earth. It's just everywhere. There's a little bit of sweetness also on the draw, by the way, but lots and lots of earth. I didn't use a punch or a cutter on this particular cigar because the cap looked like it might actually be missing. It was kind of weird. The cigar was sort of open on the end already. It wasn't coming apart. It wasn't flaking. It was just open, like somebody had already taken the cap off. So didn't prove to be an issue. The rest of the factory smoke construction was actually quite good. Once I lit it, the cigar gave me more of that earthy note from the pre-light, along with coffee and an oaky note. There was still a little bit of the sweetness that I got on the cold draw as well, and a little black pepper on the tongue. Now, I smoked it outside, and it was admittedly a little breezy. But since one of the things that I look for in an inexpensive cigar is one that I can smoke in the car with the top down, I thought the breeze would be a good test. Does it make it smoke super hot? If so, that wouldn't be as enjoyable. As it turned out, I did touch up the factory smoke once during the first third to correct an uneven burn, and it took care of itself after that, burning as well as a much more expensive cigar, to be totally honest. It's also worth mentioning that the ash held on for almost the full first third. I mean, it probably would have lasted longer if I'd been more daring. It is definitely not a short filler cigar like so many other lower priced smokes. This is definitely long filler. The factory smoke developed a nice creaminess by the second third, and while it certainly wasn't the most complex cigar I've ever smoked, it was far from being a one-note experience. Pepper and espresso continued, and I did kind of lose the earlier oakiness, but it was still more complex than you might think. By the final third, a little bit of minerality joined the party, and I got a bit more pepper. Strength started out pretty mild, but by the last third, I'd really have put it at a medium plus. It was, it was nice and had a nice punch to it. If I had one criticism of the factory smoke Maduro, it would be that some of the tobacco does seem a little young. Yep. But that's kind of hard to have a problem with at this price.
I just looked up my review on that I did probably a year ago or whenever it was, and that's one of the things that I said about it.
Hard to have a problem with it, though, at this price, and also compared to others in the same price range. Yeah. If you've ever smoked a Quorum, you know what I mean about young tobacco, right? That whole younger tobacco note. And the factory smoke did not come across that young. But it did make me think, I ought to just buy a bundle of these and let them sit in the humidor for a year. I bet they'd be amazing. Again, especially
watch them smooth
for the price.
Out
and at this price, you could buy them and let them sit in the humidor for a year and not feel like.
What price did you pay for the bundle?
I'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
I'll get to that. So overall, decent construction. Surprising abundance of flavors. Not a super premium by any standards, but quite enjoyable and a great choice for walking the dog, mowing the lawn, or cruising with the top down. Now, here's the best part. You won't find these anywhere priced at more than about $2.75 a stick.
Right.
The bundle I bought came in at about $1.70 a stick. Holy crap. I hereby declare the Drew Estate Factory Smoke Maduro Toro my absolute favorite El Cheapo smoke.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And with inflation and gas prices doing what they're doing right now, I may be including a lot more of these in my regular rotation. Let me just tell you.
Now, I've had the sun-grown. I've never bought a bundle of them, but the sun-grown's real good, too.
Okay, so that was the other thing I was going to say is I'm really curious now to try the sun-grown and the natural. So I recommend, in fact, I strongly recommend that you put some of these in your humidor as soon as you can. Highly recommended. Thumbs up. I don't remember what you gave it, but price to quality, I'm giving it a 7.5.
Nice.
Yeah.
What did I give it?
That's how impressive it was. I mean, again, it cost me $1.70. I mean, we're really inching close toward what that Black and Mild was worth that you rated so highly. Price to quality, right? So I'm telling you. I would be interested to see what your
I'm looking
PDQ
it up right
was.
now, Factory Smith. What was my PVQ? I gave it a 5.5
okay,
at $1.99.
So I was a little more enthusiastic than you were, but I just really enjoyed it,
Here's what I think, though. That was a review a while back, and I've had a bunch of them since then, and I've found that there are some inconsistencies across them. Okay,
and that's to be expected, I think.
But at that price point, I don't care that much.
Right.
And the one I smoked, when I look back on there, was you'll get those once in a while where they're a little young tasting and they're a little fast burning. That's apparently what I had on there, was a little fast burner. And but most of the time not. Most of the time they're reasonably consistent and they're pretty good. So I've smoked many of those, many bundles of those by this point.
Well, for me, I'm always looking for a good inexpensive cigar that I can smoke either in the car if I've got the top down, or on a day when it's a little more windy and I don't want to go out there and light up my, H. Upman by A.J. Fernandez, Nicaragua, that was $18, because you're not going to get the right enjoyment out of it, but you still want to be able to enjoy a cigar. And so something that has flavor, burns at least half decently, and can be rewarding and enjoyable, and where you don't feel like you're wasting your money. I think it's
also a great one to have, like if you think you might get interrupted or if you got some other things to do. If you relight it more than twice, you will get a penalty, but the first or second relight's not a big deal.
Not too bad, yeah. As long as you don't let it sit too long.
Yeah, don't let it sit too long.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't leave them out overnight.
Not to change the subject, but I've been sipping this, and I think it's wonderful. This is the Nowhere But Texas American lager from Legal Draft, and I think it's delicious. It's the first time I've tried this. What do you think?
You have the right to drink great beer with flavor and character, made locally and enjoyed with friends and family. Know your rights, it says.
It's got almost a little fruitiness to it, like an apple or something in there, but it's not like a cider. It's definitely a beer, but. I dig it. I think it's got a crispness that I really enjoy.
Says this American premium lager is straw gold, made for easy drinking. It's perfect for the lake ball game or a Texas country concert. Agreed. This is actually really good. There's a couple lagers that have come out here, especially in this area, that remind me of Lone Star, but way better.
Right.
And Lone Star is something you can drink ice cold, and it's fine. It gets a little sketchy when it gets warm.
Yes, for sure.
But this, and Eighth Wonder makes one called Tex.
And that's got some similar qualities.
Very similar to this in the overall genre of beer. Very similar to, and a lot of the same qualities in that this has such a beautiful maltiness to it.
It really does. And it's got just that little hint of fruitiness and a crispness that makes you...
You're right about it's like a kind of a green apple.
Yes, a little bit of...
In the
and
best
just
way.
that snap gives you a little bit of the Doritos effect, which makes you want another sip, It's really, really quite good.
Brewed and canned locally.
Does it say what the ABV is?
Legal Draft in Arlington, Texas. What is the ABV? I don't see it. The sticker could be over it.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's around 4.5.
There it is written down here. It's 4.2.
4.2.
So very crushable.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this would be a great by the pool beer.
Yeah,
have
absolutely.
a bunch of these in a cooler. Keep going back. You're not too worried about it. I like it.
Like all the little pictures on here is little pictures of the Alamo and a sheriff's badge and a cowboy hat and a rose and cowboy
so
boots.
it's a very Texas-y can, if you want to show that off. And it's, of course, red, white, and blue, which is also the colors of the Texas flag, by the way, not just the American flag. So
this is when you drink all your barbecuing.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
What this is right here.
For sure.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. I approve of this beer.
I'm for it.
My name's Cruze, and I approve of this beer. I absolutely like it. So let's take a break. When we come back, we want to talk about tap rooms. We want to talk about a different kind of craft beer experience that's not too bad, and we'll also get into.
I really don't know what's going on there.
And the story is even weirder than the tease. Trust me. We'll get into that coming up. You are listening to Smoking and Toasting, and we will be right back. Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting. We are the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We'll be talking a little bit about our favorite tap rooms, but first, a tap room I have not visited, but boy, would it be fun, is the Oklahoma City tap room for Prairie Artisan Ales. These guys are so nuts and creative. There's certain breweries that make me think of they're just so out there in a creative way. Prairie Artisan Ales is one. Ingenious Brewing
Ingenious is crazy.
Is another. There are a number of them on the West Coast that are just absolutely nuts. Wow,
that
looks like a jar of jelly. It's with the little beer foam on the top of it. Fascinating.
It looks like a smoothie.
Yeah, it really does. Well, these guys, so Prairie Artisan Ales, really known for sours. That's kind of their thing. And this is a sour ale, but it is all about peanut butter and jelly. Am I correct?
So peanut butter and jelly squeeze, sour ale with blackberry, blueberry, boysenberry, dried roasted peanuts, and peanut butter. 5% alcohol by volume.
Fascinating. Well, it's going to be...
the color of it is... Oh. I mean, it looks like the blackberry... boysenberry and blueberry just all mashed
get all
up.
of those.
Look at that.
You can get all those berries on the nose. You really can, and somehow it does kind of evoke the peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
I can smell the peanut butter in there.
Mm-hmm.
So
definitely on the nose.
This week,
yeah,
we were shopping earlier this week, and my wife bought one of those jars of peanut butter and jelly mix.
Oh yeah, is that any good? I've never done that.
It's just fine, and I can't tell you for whatever reason. Like it makes me every once in a while. I'm like, I'm a little hungry. I just go by and grab one piece of bread and make a little foldy with it because it's so easy.
Because the jelly's already in there, right? You don't have to get up two separate things. And so
this is the nose on this is fantastic. There's a tiny bit of that sour you can smell, but the peanut butter's there.
Wow,
all the berries
fascinating. So the peanut butter is there, the berries are there, the jam, jelly flavoring, but on the finish, I actually pick up what almost seems like toasted bread, which completes the whole peanut butter and jelly sandwich thing.
So the sour in here, if you've ever had a real good raspberry preserve. You know how raspberries got the little seeds, and you bite the seed, and it's got a little bitter to it.
Yes.
That the sour is evocative of that. The peanut butter. It's so funny because you take a sip and you're assaulted with fruit, and then the sour happens, and then right before you swallow, you get this peanut butter.
Right.
That just like right
peanut
at the
butter
back
and
of the
toasted
palate.
bread on the finish.
Yeah, toastiness. It's. This is incredibly well done.
Mm-hmm. I don't know that I could drink more than one of these.
Oh, did you notice the sediment in the bottom of this?
There's definitely some, yes.
If you were wondering if there was...
You were closer to the bottom of the can, I think, with your pour, so you might have
If you were
more.
wondering if there was crushed fruit in there. Look at that.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Well... I got to give them credit for trying this,
So this is just a big hand grabbing a peanut butter or jelly jar. It looks like a jelly jar.
I like this, but I only want one. You know what I mean?
I could drink an entire can of this and be fine. I don't know that I'd reach for a second one, but I'm also like that. Sometimes I just want something different, and that's good, and then I'll go to something else, If I had a 6-pack of this...
it would last you a while.
I don't think it would last that long. A couple weeks, maybe. Because it'd be something I'd keep going back to, going, I want that. I bet, however, this poured into a pint glass and then sat out just a little bit to let it warm up. I bet it gets real interesting.
I bet it does.
So we're going to let that happen.
So you can keep a little bit to warm there, and we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Well, that's good. That's absolutely good stuff. So Doug actually liked it. See, I was guessing this would not be up Doug's alley.
I was actually about to make a comment that he hadn't said anything.
Yeah. So
I'm over here drinking it not.
Okay, gotcha. Well,
it gets sludgier towards the bottom. I probably should have mixed it. I noticed you're not reaching for more.
Yeah. No, I'm actually saving this last little bit and letting it warm up.
We're gonna try that.
If there's more in the can, you can pour me.
Oh, there's more in the can. Yeah,
I like it. All right, so let me tell you, we're going to talk tap rooms in a minute, but let me just tell you real quick about a different kind of craft beer experience that's not bad. Oak Park, Illinois, which is in the Chicagoland area. A goat farm on the west side is teaming up with Oak Park Brewery with the experience giving people the opportunity to hang with the animals and then grab a beer. The Glenart Farm has paired up with One Lake Brewery for a one-of-a-kind experience that starts with goats. Early in the morning, the goats get milked, and then they run down the alley to the quarter-acre pasture. You can hang out with the goats and then walk 2 blocks for craft beer.
Goats have weird eyes.
Yes. The brewery overlooks Austin and Lake Streets. Every beer starts with grain that's brewed on site. You can pair that with a plate of fish and chips. And the goats give the neighborhood an alternative of things to do, according to the article. I guess I don't get it. Like
Goats and beer, man.
Goats and beer. Like,
That's it. I can't even follow through with that. I'm sorry.
Goats are just such strange animals. I mean,
Their eyes are so bizarre.
Dislike goats, but they're weird. And I just don't know. I don't get the connection between the goats and the craft beer, unless it's Bach. Maybe because Bach is what goats and rams and
right.
Maybe there's a connection there. I don't know. I just thought it was weird. That's not making my list of my favorite brewery tap rooms. Although I'm sure the beer is quite good, and I'm sure that after hanging out with the goats and smelling, what goats smell like, the beer is probably a very refreshing thing to be able to.
Speaking of lists and tap rooms, so you asked me to come up with some favorite tap rooms.
Yes.
So I had to make a list of the list of tap rooms that I'm going to do.
You made a list of the list?
Yes.
And what does it mean?
Well, because there's different style of tap rooms. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
We'll get
in
to
just a
that.
moment.
In fact, we'll get to quite a bit more, including some tequila. And we'll tell you about tequila taking over, and we'll talk tap rooms all coming up. It is Smoking and Toasting, and we will be right back.
And we're having fun.
Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting. This is the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. My name is Cruze. My co-host is Ian Barry. Lalo Tequila is spinning on Mr. Twirlygig, who is the...
We're going to get to that.
I'm actually really excited to taste this. It's going to be... I really enjoyed what I had in that margarita and the sample that I got, so I want to see how you respond to this. But so let's talk tap rooms. First of all, next week's show, we're actually going to do from a tap room.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be at No Label Brewing in Katy. And by the way, they just won like a huge award for their beers from the Big Beer Festival.
That's
like
awesome.
It's like it's the kind that changes your destiny, winning an award like that. This brewery is going to become now nationally known. Not just known in our general area of Texas here. They're going to become a national thing. And so we want to talk to them about that. We want to sample some beer, and we're going to smoke cigars in their outdoor area. So we're really excited about it.
Speaking of favorite tap rooms.
Well, we can go there if you want. Talk tap room.
Let's talk about the style of tap room we're talking about.
Let's do it.
Because when you said...
I have a feeling, by the way, your tap room thoughts are going to be far more organized and complex than mine. I'm just like, I went to this one. I really liked it.
I haven't really been accused of having more complex thoughts than other people, but okay.
Beer good.
Beer good. So there are different styles of tap rooms. So I just want to point out a couple things. Some tap rooms are like an elevated experience, and it's like this whole thing when you go there. And then there's tap rooms, like local tap rooms, where you just go hang out. And so I have at least those two categories I want to talk about, okay? Because there are vast differences there, all right?
Sure, yeah.
So if we're going to talk about something that's a little more of an elevated experience, I think one of the kings of the hill is going to be in here in Houston is Buffalo Bayou. Because you don't just go in there and have a beer. It's a whole restaurant ridiculousness. You know what I mean? It's a very different thing. And there's a few breweries that are like that are a lot of fun. Out on the west side of Texas, and I should have written this down because I'm blanking on it right now. But out on the west side of Texas, there's quite a few that are just absolutely ridiculous, like this crazy thing. But I want to actually boil mine down and go past those because those are nice. But I want to talk about the kind you just go hang out at.
Okay.
Like almost a ice house style, you know. So favorites. I love Brash's tap room. It's ridiculous. It's not air conditioned. As a matter of fact, only parts of the day can you find a shady spot outside. So it's kind of brutal, but that's brash.
Yeah.
And brash is kind of brutal.
Yeah, it's kind of what they're all about. If you think about it, it's kind of
but
what they're all about.
But I also want to talk about the experience of when you walk in. Brash serves brash beers, and they serve other breweries' beers. So you can try a lot of different beers there. Breweries that they're, I guess, professional friends with, so to speak, right? Also, it's like walking into an old arcade. All the games from the 80s are all there. I'm pretty sure they have
Pac-Man and
Rampage and all
Joust.
those all those different things. And then the jukebox. When the mildest thing on the jukebox is Pantera.
Yeah, that's the mellow ones.
So I feel like Brash has created an environment using basically what is an ice house style feel that's fantastic. Let's move over from there and let's go to Eureka Heights. Not too far from there, actually. Eureka Heights. And I'm friends with some of the people there, so I do have a little bit of a personal connection to Eureka Heights. But this is the kind of place where if they notice that the line for beer is getting a little too long, then someone that works there will go get samples of beers and walk through the line and give you samples of beers while you're waiting. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You almost hope the line gets long, you know?
I mean, come on. Like that's an attention to service is fantastic, and it's just a fun place. And then a lot of these places have they have yoga and beer. They have all these different things going on, you know.
Sure.
And
it's not just cornhole and taps.
Right. Well, and not only that, but they also have the Bette Midler Shrine.
Right. There is that.
That's been there forever, right?
Yes. I've forgotten about that, but you're absolutely right. That's a thing.
Yeah, they do all kinds of, and then their sense of humor just prevails everything. You know, all the artwork and stuff that they have going on there. So that's a lot of fun to hang out. There's another one that goes a little under the radar, and it's Under the Radar Brewery. And this is one of my favorites, and there's two reasons. One is it's never that busy, and that's not good for them.
But it can be good for you if you just want to sit and chat or whatever.
Their tap room is almost non-existent. It's literally they open the bay doors, and you got about 15 feet before you hit the bar.
I love it.
And there's a refrigerator on the side if you want to take something to go. But so you walk in and the guys are real nice there. They always have great beers. They always have some really fantastic stuff. And then they have this big yard, and you can always go find a far corner and smoke a cigar and chill out and hang a good time if you're going to watch a game or if you're hanging out. So I'd say those three, but honorable mention also. I'm going to go ahead and say True Anomaly is a lot of fun. It's not a great place to go have a cigar. They do have an outside patio, but they got a great hang. They got great beers, and then they got this incredible pizza place right across the street. And if you order it, the pizza place will just bring it over to you. And so that's a lot of fun. And it's walking distance to Eighth Wonder, which is a great tap room to have a cigar with, because also giant yard, and you can go look at these giant statues of the Beatles. And
awesome.
So I've named way too many there.
Yeah, you named
like I went way over. I broke the mold here. I went way over, but I just love that kind of down home tap room experience, and that's why even the big ones that are like really like a destination kind of place aren't quite as interesting to me, to be honest. So that's why I had to separate that category.
Well, I would say for mine, honorable mention would be Santa Fe Brewing Company in Santa Fe, New Mexico, a place I just literally drove to because I was driving to Santa Fe and saw the sign. I was like, hey, I've had their beers, let's go. And so went in and they were very friendly, had great beers on tap. It was a place I wasn't that familiar with. So they'd be an honorable mention for me. If I were to narrow it to three, probably one of them would be St. Arnold in Houston. It's just their whole taproom thing is very different. Their building is so old and historic, and it's just got a really different kind of a feel to it, and I really, really like it. Plus, I'm just a really, really huge fan of their beers. They can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. I really, really like that brewery. Some of my favorite breweries I've not been to, or they would very likely make the make my list, but I haven't been to Parrish's Tap Room, and so it'll be hard to. I actually haven't been, although I need to come out there sometime when your band is playing. I haven't been to the Yellow Rose Tap Room.
Oh yeah, we'll be out there. I think next month actually.
Yeah, all right. We got to coordinate
It'll be
dates.
hot.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. It is hot this time of year. The Eighth Wonder was going to be, I think, my next one, and just largely because of how spread out it is.
Yeah.
You know, I love that you can just kind of almost wander around there, which is kind of unique for a tap room. They've got, some indoor spaces, but they've got a huge outdoor area. It's great for smoking a cigar. Like you said, the Beatles statue is just really super mod and cool, and it's big enough that they can throw great sort of like festival events there, and have bands and do all kinds of stuff, and that's really fun. And the other one, and you mentioned this, but I'm going to mention it for a different reason. The other one that is an absolute favorite to me, partially because it's walking distance from my house, but True Anomaly Brewing. And the reason that they get to leapfrog a few other potential favorites is because the very first time I went, it was a Tuesday, which means it was Taco Tuesday. And the tacos that they had and the little table that I had set up outside were the best tacos I've ever had in my life. They were so
have to hit
good
that on a Tuesday.
that it's just like, you got to go on Tuesday. Plus they do trivia, which is kind of fun. I didn't participate, but it was fun to sit there and act like I was smart because I knew the answers to some of them. So that was cool. But yeah, those are my favorite. But there's tap rooms all over the country. And in fact, what sort of started us on this whole thought process was an article which appeared in craftbeer.com about 9 remarkable brewery tap rooms. They say you should put these on your bucket list to visit if you're, somebody that travels around the United States. So while Ian opens up the tequila, let me tell you about these. In Wichita, Kansas, a small craft brewery called Central Standard Brewing. The small craft breweries of the past were simply neighborhood pubs, and then, so there must be some kind of an X factor, they say, in brewery design. Central Standard in Wichita, Kansas, with its communal share-a-table patio setup on a side road across from a quiet park, has achieved the rare backyard buzz. That was quite beautifully done. The inside has a retro vibe. It's supposed to be one of the coolest retro places you can visit. If you're in Reno, Nevada, visit The Depot. It's an old train station built in 1910 that is now a tap room, and that's pretty exciting. Definitely something you want to read. In San Diego, the Epig Brewing, not Epic, but Epig, E-P-P-I-G, Epig Brewing Waterfront Beer Garden. It's beautiful. It's lit up. It's their second location along the waterfront, and they say it will make you forget all about their first location in North Park. It's open air, right in the middle of the harbor. The view dominated by all kinds of boats in the foreground and San Diego's skyline in the background, and really, really good beer. In Saline, Michigan, Salt Springs Brewery. What's interesting to me, Ian, is these are mostly breweries I have never heard of.
I've never heard of.
Which I find fascinating because it's like, okay, now these get to go on my list.
Right.
Might be some truth about the idea of beer being a religion, they say, because over the years they've seen a number of breweries open up inside former churches in Michigan. Props to Salt Springs Brewery for doing a little redecorating along the way while retaining the beauty of the church that was built more than 115 years ago that is home to their brewery. Love City Brewing in Philadelphia. There is a second brewery in San Diego that makes this list called the Mission Brewery, and it makes its home space in the building that was once occupied by Wonder Bread.
Nice.
Which is kind of interesting. Toro Creek in Paso Robles, California, and Magnolia Brewing in San Francisco. And finally, rounding out the list is the Engine House No. 9 Brewery in Tacoma, Washington. And yes, it is in a former firehouse.
Nice.
So that's kind of cool. So these all sound very interesting and kind of like unusual taproom experiences, which I think would be awesome, So, Ian, you have opened up the Lalo. You've had a chance to nose this a little bit.
Just a couple of elevated brewery experiences. There was one in Pittsburgh called the Church Brew Works.
Oh, nice.
Which was in an old deconsecrated church, and that was pretty amazing. And the food was amazing too. That's not your Ice House style brew,
No,
which I
not
tend
at
to
all.
like a little more.
Yeah,
overall.
not at all. Not at all.
This smells
Smells like tequila, doesn't
smells like it has a very straight ahead tequila, peppery, a little buttery kind of smell. Have you've tried? Oh, you have tried this by itself.
I have, but it's been a few weeks, and I'm trying to. Yeah, I remember really liking it, and I do really like it.
I can see why. The butteriness is definitely in there. It's sweet,
buttery, peppery, and sweet.
It is sweeter
Sweet
than I
agave.
expected. Yes, and it's quite pleasant sweet. Like that's really nice. I bet this is. Just like this, I would drink it. I bet this makes a great margarita.
I bet it does. It's got just the right sort of foundational flavor for making a great margarita.
It's got enough of that peppery punch to get through in a margarita or mixed drink kind of thing, I think. It's got definitely. I like the aftertaste. The aftertaste leaves this sweet agave kind of thing going on. You ever just had like the agave, the agave liquid? What do they call it?
The agave syrup.
Syrup.
Yes.
It has a lot of that kind of character to it, and then
It
it's
does.
sweet and it's agave, but it has a little pepper punch.
I would say though for a Blanco, because the Blanco is unaged, right? Mm-hmm. For a Blanco, I think it's got a remarkable sort of a smoothness to it.
Lalo continues the legacy as a third-generation spirit, combining a grandfather's love for the land with a father's passion for premium. Our tequila is a distillation of an entire country, culture, and people. Each bottle captures the complex essence of our agave plants that naturally age in the mineral-rich soil of the Jalisco Highlands, and it is very minerally.
Very much so.
That
yes.
mineral water. It's also like a part of like why I like this so much. This is
The minerality.
yes. Inhale, sip, exhale. It's our ritual for drinking, our mantra for living. Lalo Spirits. I also like the very incredibly simple. Well, they give you the coordinates for where they are, 20 degrees, and all that stuff on there. So. But I like the bottle. The bottle is so simple.
It's kind of a simplistic and just very straightforward. I like that.
It has a very distilled down kind of look to it. But also, like as simple as it is, the label has some texture to it that makes you
right.
Like,
it doesn't look cheap because it's simple. It looks elegant.
Right. It doesn't look like you printed it on your home printer and then cut the paper out and stuck it on there.
I really like it. Now, I will admit, most of the tequila that crawls into my favorite category has a tendency to be very mapley, very vanilla, very oaky. And this is not that. But it is as good an example of a sort of a straightforward agave peppery Blanco as I think I could come
What price
up with.
point is this at?
It's about 40.
So this is a little more expensive Blanco, but I got to tell you, as a Blanco that you could just sip by itself, this is really good. Mm-hmm. And I imagine it just makes one hell of a mixer. Mm-hmm. I could see why if you had a bar with high end mixed drinks, that this would be your go-to for a margarita.
If you're thinking like an Anvil or a place like that, that does the really high-end crafty mixed drinks, or something like what Chris Morris would put together.
Right?
Yeah. So here's what's interesting about tequila, and why I wanted to get a tequila to bring in today, because tequila is taken over. In fact, according to a new report in Bloomberg, Americans will spend more on mezcal and tequila this year than on whiskey.
Really?
Yes. Making it the number 2 spirit, vodka being number 1 in terms of what is spent on it and how much is sold. And that's interesting because it tells you a lot about vodka, because there are not that many super expensive vodkas. So it means a lot of vodka is being bought and consumed. But if you look at tequila and mezcal together, they will outsell whiskey in the United States in 2022.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That would surprise you, wouldn't it?
That is very surprising.
Because at the specs that I go to, for example, there's a whiskey aisle that's all like Scotch and Irish whiskey, and then there's the bourbon aisle. And so you got 4 solid sides of an aisle.
And they're long aisles.
Then they're long aisles that are all devoted. I mean, the only thing that gets more real estate than that is beer and ultimately the wine.
I mean, the wine is a whole entire section of the shop. Yeah.
Right. But there's maybe like 4.5 aisles of beer. But yeah, tequila and mezcal together, one aisle. It's interesting.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And then vodka gets its own aisle.
Vodka is, although I think it shares it with gin.
Yeah,
yes,
vodka and gin. I had to think about that.
Because at the specs I go to, that's called Martini Way.
That's right.
and it's vodka and gin, right?
Yes.
Insert Ian joke about martinis only being made with gin here.
Well,
yeah, but,
I'm trying to be better about that.
I just thought that was very interesting. This is the first time this year that Americans will spend more on tequila and mezcal. Now, I believe
that's a pretty good tequila.
Not only is it because tequila has really exploded and there's so many more brands and different ones to try, but it also has to do with the explosion of mezcal. At the specs we were talking about, mezcal used to be a tiny portion of one shelf, and now it's a whole quarter of the tequila and mezcal.
Well, there are certain things now that are getting their own section. The mezcal, like just a few years ago, you'd have to kind of dig a little bit, and now it's
and now you can even find Sotol.
Yeah, pretty much everywhere. And then Texas whiskey is one of those things. Remember when they'd have like one little corner, which would be like, oh, there's some
Texas, now Texas whiskey is almost
now
a whole aisle.
section. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right.
I mean, Irish whiskey gets its own section.
Right.
And Texas whiskey's like that now, that's pretty awesome.
Texas doing battle with Ireland for shelf space. That's pretty cool. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, it's drinking news time, and so we're excited about that. And speaking of drinking, we still have something to sample called Morning Sunshine. It's a stout with apparently you're going to want to pour on pancakes. So we'll find out coming up. Welcome back. It's Smokin' and Toastin'. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are on show number 285, and we are thrilled to be here. And during the break, Ian and I went back and sampled our slightly warmer
peanut butter and jelly
squeeze. And the first thing we realized is that coming from the tequila to that was a bad idea.
No, it did
so
not taste good.
We had to go and do a little palate cleanse. But then coming back to it, I think both of us had the same thought, which was
I liked it better cold.
Yeah, we liked it a little better when it was cold. But
and it's not to say it's totally bad right now, but I think I liked it better cold.
Yeah,
because this to me has the same. When you buy a smoothie, like the leftover smoothie from Smoothie King, like you had just a quarter of it left, and you got out of your car and you went into Best Buy, and then you got frustrated because no one in there knows what they're talking about, and then you came back out to your car and it's all melted.
What are you trying to say?
That's what this smoothie tastes like when you get back to that. That's what this beer tastes like. That smoothie you just got back to.
You wouldn't be referring to the 2.5 hours I spent in there on Saturday trying to buy a new phone. Would you?
Oh, you were in Best Buy? That makes it even worse.
Oh, yeah, it was even worse. Although I will say, when it finally got to the manager of the department, he did his very best to be helpful. But, wow, up until then.
Best Buy is an interesting store. Remember when it used to be interesting to go around and look at all the electronics? Now they sell phones.
Right. and they got a TV section in the back that's walled off.
And some TVs.
Yeah. And refrigerators.
And about 2 or 3 different sound bars.
Right.
For your TV.
Yep. And refrigerators.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe a washing machine. Oh, well, I think it's time to start drinking. And whenever it's time to start drinking, it's time for drinking news.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. Well, today's drinking news story, and this is the part where we should remind people, because I think it helps, that drinking news is a collection of stories which we believe to be true. In other words, they're not written as parody. They're not from The Onion. Today's drinking news story, like every other drinking news story, is a story that may or may not be about drinking, but it's probably always most and best enjoyed if you've been drinking. So Ian pours me a little more of the Lalo tequila, which I will sip while I share today's drinking news story with you. It's a short one, but let's be honest. There's so much that is wrong with the few paragraphs of this story that we'd be doing you, my intrepid smoking and toasting listener, a disservice if we didn't try to unpack it for you here. Let me just take a little sip of this before I continue.
Getting prepped.
A Florida man was arrested in Daytona Beach shores and charged with criminal mischief, among other things.
I can't believe that statement.
Yeah.
No way that could happen.
I know. You think I'm pulling your leg, don't you? He was charged with criminal mischief, among other things, after an incident at a liquor store. Imagine that. Police say that it just goes downhill from here. It's going to start going downhill when I tell you that the man's name was William Bubba Hodge of Homestead, Florida. You can't make this stuff up. Police say that William Bubba Hodge of Homestead was accused of...
Was that one word or two, Bubba Hodge?
No, I like it better as one. I think we'll keep it as... I think we'll just call him Bubba Hodge. He was accused of... And here's where it gets really interesting.
All right, lay it on me.
Stealing an alligator from a mini golf business, beating and stomping it, and attempting to throw it onto the roof of a liquor store. Dear God, where do we even start?
Slow down.
I say, let's start with mini golf.
That is a jam-packed sentence.
Yeah, that's why I said we got to unpack this for you.
So mini golf keeps an alligator.
Yeah,
Let's just start there.
Let's start with mini golf.
So I was up there at the mini golf place. You know, the one with the alligator.
Yeah. Well, I'm no expert golfer, but I can hold my own at putt-putt with the best of them, right? It's been a long time since I've played mini golf, but I distinctly remember the man-made waterfall mountain that you have to putt around, and the windmill where the blades, cover up the spot you need to put the ball through, and you have to time it just right in order to get the ball through.
Right.
And the wacky obstacle course where you have to shoot around the statues of Gargamel and Papa Smurf and Smurfette just to get onto the second area of the green. You know what I don't remember?
You dug deep for that one.
You know what I don't remember?
What's that?
Alligators!
Live alligators.
What kind of low-rent...
This is called danger golf.
Yeah, what kind of low-rent, meth-head, crappy miniature golf course has live alligators? Think of the children, for God's sake. Little Johnny lines up his shot to try and get a hole-in-one, and then crunch!
Lost his ankle to the alligator.
Wally Gator takes a big chunk out of his leg. That's got to be the worst idea for a mini golf course of all time, or at least a close second to Cardi B mini golf in Paramus, New Jersey, where you have to maneuver your shot around a big twerking replica of a talentless pop star's ass.
The whole time you're just shooting to find her talent.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is not his distance, so you're not going to win this game.
Yeah, exactly. And having to work the mini golf ball around the big twerking ass replica, it's just a hard. It's not worth your time. It is not worth your time. But back to our.
Don't even get me started on Megan the Stallion.
Yeah, exactly. But back to our story. Secondly, the Florida man apparently beat and stomped the alligator. Now,
my question is, did the alligator instigate it?
Well, I can say that, while I'm no big defender of the reptile order of Crocodilia, Google it. That still qualifies as animal abuse in my book.
Well,
right?
yeah.
And there's simply no excuse for that. Besides, what kind of moron, even Florida man, picks a fight with an alligator? What could possibly go wrong? You know? I'm just saying. And finally, according to the police report, Bubba, or Bubba Haj, as we like to call him now, tried to throw the gator onto the roof of a liquor store in the middle of the night. Was he trying to break in?
Did he kidnap the alligator?
Yeah, he stole it from the mini golf place. Which, you know, is its own separate news story.
Was he mini golfing earlier and had a altercation with said alligator trap?
The police report is not clear. What we do know is that he threw it onto the roof, or tried to throw it onto the roof of a liquor store, which seems like a stupid plan. Was he trying to break in? If so, how would that possibly work? Was the gator supposed to chew a hole in the roof and then fall through into the building and then
That's not a monkey.
come around and unlock the door so Florida man could come in and grab some Mad Dog 2020? I mean, clearly we're not dealing with a master criminal here, right?
Mad Dog.
But according to the police report, it may not have even been what Bubba was trying to do. Officers said, oh, God. Officers said that when they asked Bubba Haj what he was doing, and when he was throwing the alligator up in the air, he told them that he was, and I quote here, teaching it a lesson.
Because that's
quote.
how alligators learn?
Yeah. Hodge was charged with animal cruelty, with possession and injury of an alligator, unarmed burglary of an unoccupied building, petty theft, and criminal mischief. The alligator was allegedly returned to the mini golf course, where he is believed to be currently lying in wait, biding his time until little Johnny attempts a shot at the 9th hole. Florida, you never disappoint, do you?
Florida.
Reporting live from the Sunshine State, where Governor Ron DeSantis has blamed this whole event on math books with a secret embedded message promoting the transsexual lifestyle, because clearly that's the problem. My name is Cruze, and that is your
Drinking news. Drinking news. That's our time for drinking news. The Florida man with an alligator. Nah, sorry, I can't do it.
It's hard to work liquor store into the.
I already wrote a song that has
Florida man and the gator in it.
Yeah, a gator in
I know.
it. So, like, I mean, how does this guy one up me like that?
I know, it's amazing. And so you wrote in your drinking news song, you got a Florida man with one arm and a gator that he had to take to the vet, and in Chris Morris's drinking news song, they box a kangaroo. You gotta love the general chicanery that's involved in all of this.
He went around what does he say? I love that song. He went a round or two and it beat him black and blue.
Yeah, no, it's really great. So we have to do that one again soon. That's a fun that's a fun little thing to do. Oh man, I got to tell you, Ian, you replenished my cup with the Lalo tequila, and I'm liking it. And this is true of many spirits, but I'm liking it better and better as I sip it a little longer.
It's pretty good.
The smoothness really starts to
smooth.
Yeah, was that the Jägermeister guy? Really was smooth. No, but it does. The butteriness that you mentioned, and Doug was even saying during the break, it doesn't like burn on the way down. It's virtually non-existent tequila hug.
Yeah.
You know,
but it's very peppery and punchy too at the same time.
Right. But it's all kind of up front rather than it being unfriendly.
I think this is a dangerous one. This is one I'm going to buy, and my wife's going to go through it so fast.
And I bet it does make great margaritas.
I bet it does.
Yeah,
especially if you're like fresh squeezing everything.
I like it.
It's unapologetically tequila.
Yeah.
But it doesn't smack you in the face.
And I think if you were to just say put some in a flask and go mini golfing, as long as you stay away from the alligators, I think it'd be a wonderful
also,
experience.
as usual with our tequila shows.
What were you looking for? Were
the
you
last
cups?
beer.
Oh, the last beer. I have to get that for you. Stand by.
As usual with our shows where we feature tequila, no salt or limes have been harmed.
That's right.
in the filming of this episode.
That is very, very important. And
you were so happy about the tequila. You were like, we don't have another beer. What beer?
Yeah, I know. I can't believe and it's morning sunshine that I forgot. This is going to be very, very.
I love the artwork already. Like, so this is very clear. Martin House has some of the most fun artwork on their beers. They have a whole series where they do the double can box, looks like a bomber box, but they do the double can, and they always have incredible artwork on there. This one is a lot of fun. It's a guy and a bear. You can see let's just say you can see his bare ass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a bare ass right there.
It's a bare ass right there. And they're looking out across. Look, there's a little cabin with some smoke coming from the.
It's a very. I almost could mistake this for
Grizzly
something
Adams
from one of the Fort Collins, Colorado type of breweries. But these guys are out of Fort Worth, Texas.
Did I just say Grizzly Adams? Am I dating
I believe
myself?
You did. Yes. I dated myself for many years. It wasn't a great deal of fun.
I had to break up.
Yeah.
I'm still not handling it well.
The intimacy was decidedly unsatisfying. I'll just say that right now. Did I actually say that?
There's something wrong in your head.
Yes, there is. There are many things actually wrong in my head. How'd you do? How'd you do? How'd you do? All right, that sounded great, and maybe I'm just influenced by the tequila.
Well,
I
love it already. It pours pretty much like motor oil.
Yeah, well, I had the feeling this might be something you would like, but listen, the folks at Martin House have done such an incredible job of making really interesting and different craft beers. They've made some sours that have been amazing. I just had, did we have it on the show, or did I just have this at home? Their lemon icebox pie. We had that on the show, didn't we?
Yes.
It was fantastic. It was just
I'm still looking for that Lagunitas iced tea thing that you.
I gotta find that again. I have not found it since we had it. Yeah, that was one my wife brought home from the grocery store. It was just
smells
so
like
interesting.
burnt coffee bean.
All right, so this is a coffee stout with maple syrup. So the idea is you're thinking about this guy and the bear. You're thinking this is what it's like when he stops at the local place where like Jack Reacher would stop in for breakfast with coffee and flapjacks, right? That's what you're thinking of. Just a little mountainside,
Does anyone
breakfast
remember
spot.
Grizzly Adams?
No.
There was a show.
My Jack Reacher reference was much more current than your Grizzly Adams.
There was a show on years ago.
But next thing I'll mess it up and I'll reference BJ and the Bear. Do you remember BJ and the Bear? Very unfortunately named trucker. But anyway, back to the stout. This smells delicious, but it really does. It smells like walking into a diner, right? For breakfast.
I'm waiting for you to try it.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. This is polarizing, to say the least.
Wow. Okay, so you get the coffee, you get the syrup. Does that work for you?
I'm going to say this, and my brother-in-law is going to truly appreciate this, okay? My newest brother-in-law, his family makes maple syrup. They don't actually make it. I think the trees make it. But they
you know
do
what they
stuff.
call those people in Vermont though?
What's that?
Call them tree tappers. And seriously,
sappers.
Yeah, tree tappers. That's what they go.
Anyway.
My brother John, he's a tree tapper.
So his family makes maple syrup, and they make damn good maple syrup. As a matter of fact, we ran out of it, and I sent him a picture the other day of me using some
Aunt Jemima or something,
OTC, like maple syrup, and I said, "This is your fault because you haven't given us any." But this has that kind of awesome maple syrup flavor. This is not like your run-of-the-mill, like...
No, this is not squeezed out of a honey bear-shaped syrup container.
No, not at all. This has that real deal. It's not sickly sweet like some of those syrups are. And then the coffee in this is fantastic
Coffee
as well.
is almost like just that roast coffee smell.
I want to point out, so I drink
like.
coffee black. I don't put cream, sugar, anything. I drink coffee straight black, okay? And this has that straight black coffee, like overall like coffee bitter deliciousness that I like, and then it has that maple syrup right behind it. That's absolutely fantastic. This is great.
What's interesting to me about this is that I expected the bitterness of the coffee to be offset by more sweetness from the maple syrup, and this isn't sweet at all.
Not super sweet.
In fact, if anything, it's bitter like the coffee, sort of
it's
a
so
flavor.
good. It's you know how you want to like if you want to put a little taste of something in a coffee, you want it to have that flavor, but you don't want it to have like a hazelnut coffee with no sugar in it is nice because you get the hazelnut,
right? You get
which
to
a lot of
taste that.
times you associate with some sweetness, right?
Right.
But if you get it in a coffee that doesn't have the sweetness, it's really, really nice. This has that same kind of vibe it's like a black coffee with maple syrup flavoring, but not maple syrup sweetness.
Kind of digging it.
This is fantastic.
Yeah, you like this? Yeah,
It's outstanding.
Well, again, these guys at Martin House Brewing, extremely creative. I would put them in that same sort of creative realm as we were talking about earlier with Ingenious and Prairie Artisan.
I'm gonna have to get some of this for floating down the river.
Now, see, that's so interesting to me because I would never choose this as my beer for when you're outside and it's hot.
Well,
not that I don't like it; I like it a lot, but
it's 8%. So it'll get you there.
I would take a little bit of it though and go mini golfing. Perhaps
Just watch the alligator trap.
I still can't quite get
it's
over
not
the
called
fact
an alligator
that
trap.
there's live alligators at the mini golf place. Well, this
we're
story
in
started
Florida.
out
We're in
so
Florida,
wrong.
right?
I know, but still, does every place in Florida have to be?
Have you ever
gator
driven to
infested?
Florida?
Oh, I've lived in Florida.
I mean, like every place has an alligator. Like the truck stop has an alligator, right?
I lived in Panama City, Florida, in the panhandle of Florida, which I am convinced, by the way, if you are on the lam, that is the best place to go in the world. Because everything's really like everybody there is transient. Nobody's like really from there. Nobody questions if you're just off keeping to yourself. I'm telling you, if I'm ever in trouble with the law and you're looking for me, Panama City, Florida, that's where I'm headed. Plus the beaches are beautiful. So and
until they look back and they listen to this episode and they're like, now we know where.
now
to
we
find
know.
them.
I got a 1020 on the perp. I don't know what any of those words mean. I've just heard them on TV cop shows. So,
well, TV cop shows are always very, very accurate.
yes, they are. They're very accurate and they're very
Especially that
realistic.
TJ Hooker guy, like
realistic.
the way he slides across the roof.
All right, because you brought this up. I am a big time William Shatner fan. I just love him. I think he's the greatest bad actor of our generation.
He has such an amazing sense of humor about his own self.
Absolutely, he does. And
what's that show where he's the crazy guy in the office?
Oh, it's the the shit my dad says. Is that what you're talking about?
No,
because that was the show didn't last long.
It's like a little series that he was on where he's maybe it was.
Oh, you're talking about Boston Legal.
Yeah,
where he's the crazy
totally
attorney, where he's
nuts.
Denny Crane, the attorney. Yeah, it's great. Well, so I just watched last night. I gave my wife like a choice of like 5-6 different movies, and to my utter surprise, she picked the William Shatner movie. There was a William Shatner movie about him, basically being a kind of an old guy who falls in love with Gene Smart, who played on Designing Women, and it's a rom-com with Captain Kirk. I'm serious. I actually enjoyed it, but that's because I love William Shatner. I feel like he can do no right, and I love that.
What about when he was on Saturday Night Live? Like that's
people
one of
can
the most. Have you ever kissed a girl? Oh my gosh.
But he's great. I just love him. I've had a chance to interview him before.
Really?
Yes. And you know what was really interesting that he did?
What's that?
He hit on the traffic girl.
Nice.
And it was a satellite interview. Like he wasn't even there in the room. No, but I loved him. I always have loved him. He was promoting some, I don't know, dietary supplement or something.
Well, he's just he seems to be the kind of guy that comes across. He gets what he does. Like,
right. He gets what he does.
He's very original too.
He's totally comfortable with it. It's absolutely.
Have you ever run
awesome.
across any of the really old Twilight Zones with him?
Yeah. And if you think he overacts in Star Trek, wait till you watch those Twilight Zones. Yeah, it's really something. Well, I enjoy this beer. It's very different from what I would normally choose.
I think Bruce Campbell prescribes to the
Bruce Campbell. Now
he prescribes to the acting school of William Shatner.
And that makes sense because I love Bruce Campbell. I love Bruce Campbell. If you ever his character on Burn Notice. I mean, I know he's in all the zombie stuff, and that's great. I love it. But his character on Burn Notice is awesome. When he plays his alter ego, Chuck Finley. Chuck Finley, how are you? That show is great. You have to, and there's like 7-8 seasons, and you can.
I've only
binge the
seen a
whole
couple
thing.
episodes, but I
Awesome.
enjoyed them. Yeah,
It's absolutely awesome. But he, to me, is the bright light of that show. Bruce Campbell, love him. I don't know how we got off on that, but
look what has happened.
this is what happens when we bring tequila on the show. I just want to point this out. This is what happens when we have tequila. But I'm digging this tequila, and I'm really digging the Morning Sunshine.
It's so good.
It's very, very different. And if you don't like coffee, you will not like this.
No.
Yeah.
And you got to like a good, robust coffee for this, because I don't know where their coffee's coming from. But this is like seriously robust coffee.
Do you remember when we were in Honduras? We hung out with the guys from the. I'm sorry, I'm blanking. It's the tequila. When we were in Honduras, the cigar people that we were there.
Aladino.
The Aladino, thank you.
Oh, sorry. No, I thought you were talking about tequila people from Honduras.
The Honduras people that we hung. They had some coffee that I don't know where
their
it
coffee
came
was
from.
magic.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And I'm not even really a coffee drinker, but that was pretty good.
I'm a part-time coffee drinker. My younger brother is quite the coffee snob, and he goes to a special place in the town and gets his coffee ground, especially like the way he likes it.
Right.
Because he broke his coffee grinder and he hasn't bought a new one yet. Because normally he gets them in beans because the coffee lasts a long anyway.
Right.
But we could go on and on about this. But
Sure.
And he does the French
He's a
press.
coffee aficionado.
Yes, he is that guy, and he makes pretty good coffee. Like in my mind, it's pretty damn strong too.
Yeah, well, probably.
Like
if you're a coffee person,
if you
want it
drop
that
a
way.
spoon directly down into it, it might stand straight up. But but he makes good coffee. But I think this is something like I might have to buy a few of these and save them for Christmas time when he comes around, because he would be freaking out on how good this is.
Love it. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back. We have a big show coming up next week. We want to tell you about that. And
it's this big.
It's literally even bigger than that. That's how big it is.
That's
it's going to be almost impossible
5'9" inches.
almost impossible to hold. So we'll take a break and we will return. It's Smoking and Toasting. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. I just want to say this again. The more of this tequila that I sip, the longer I sip it. It's not just because I've had some, but like the more it's on my palate, the better it gets. The smoother, the rounder the flavors become, the more the butteriness becomes just this thing that kind of ties it all together. Really, really wonderful.
I kind of have the same feeling.
For
Like
a Blanco,
the
especially.
more I drink of this tequila, the more I think, man, I probably shouldn't quit this job. Like I was thinking when I came in. What?
That's good to know. So the U.S. Food and Drug Administration is proposing a ban on all characterizing flavors in cigars other than tobacco. They say it's an attempt to reduce younger smokers from trying tobacco, but other people are kind of pushing back on this, saying adults should have the freedom of choice in this matter.
You think?
Yeah. According to an FDA press release, the proposed ban on all characterizing flavors other than tobacco in cigars would attempt to, quote, reduce youth experimentation and addiction. The proposed rules would help prevent children from becoming the next generation of smokers and help adult smokers quit, Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra said. Critics, though, of the proposed ban say that individuals should have the freedom to decide what they can and cannot buy, not the government. The choice of which legal products adult consumers have a right to enjoy should be left entirely to adult consumers. That's David Osgo, who's the president of the Cigar Association of America, CAA. Yes.
Oh, yes. Thanks for noticing. I have my hand up. First off, kids smoking premium cigars. Mm-hmm. Remember the last time you walked into a cigar shop and a kid was out there going, "Can you get me one of those acid naturals?"
One of those flavored cigars.
what's considered a flavored cigar. No, like it's never happened to me, and because it's never happened to me, it's never happened to anybody. No, that's ridiculous. But the bottom line is, you remember? So one of the early shows we had, this would have been under show 100. This would have been like show 50 or 40 or something like that, where we talked about the government spending however much money they did to query the populace and find out just how many children under the age of 18, because that was the smoking age at the time. They changed it at some point in time, right?
Yeah.
Now it's 21. All right. Are smoking premium cigars.
Yeah.
And it was something like less than 3%, right?
That's right. Well, let me give you a few numbers here. According to the American Lung Association, flavored cigars make up more than half of the U.S. cigar market in 2015, 52.1%. So critics of this ban are saying that because of this large market share, banning flavored cigars would raise the price of both cheap and expensive cigars. In other words, it's going to affect people who weren't even interested in these flavored cigars to begin with, because it's going to raise the prices because you've banned this whole enormous segment of the cigar industry. Now, let's talk about the segment of that industry that is young people, that is people under 18. Opponents of the proposal say not enough young adults smoke flavored cigars for the ban to actually work like the FDA is claiming. Flavored cigar youth usage rates are currently at historic lows of less than 1% in one recent government survey.
Well, it's a good thing we're chasing that down.
Banning characterizing flavors in cigars, therefore, will do little beyond denying the adult consumers the right to purchase a legal product.
All right, so you remember when they had the album burning?
Oh, yeah, the record burnings.
The record burnings. People would get together and burn records and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that in lieu of this, that we get together and we have our own protest. I hope you can hear the air quotes going on in there, right? And we do this with cigars. We will get together, and we'll get together in a large space with a lot of other people who are like-minded.
And we'll burn them.
Burn cigars.
Yeah, I love this
now,
idea.
I don't want to do this as a bonfire. Everyone's responsible for burning their own cigar with a very small fire, preferably at the end of their cigar.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And this will be your protest.
But we will have a cigar burning.
Oh, I'm right with you. Let's do it. We may want to do it right around the same time that we do our bottle kill brunch.
Bottle kill brunch, baby.
Yeah, that's good. So,
is this the first time we've talked about it?
I think on the show, yes. We talked about this off the show.
There's your teaser. Bottle kill brunch.
Yeah. Let me give you another teaser, by the way. Next week, Ian and I will be doing the show from Katy, Texas, from No Label Brewing. They've recently won a major beer award, and I mean big-time beer award. So we're going to get a chance to talk to them about that. Plus, we'll be able to smoke outdoors and have a general good time. It'll probably be really hot, so we'll be sweaty, but that's okay. Because we're looking forward to drinking lots of good no-label beer and getting in a little smoking time.
It's okay if it's hot. I'll just wear Speedos.
Which would be awesome. Yeah, I'll be... Oh, God. For some reason, this particular show, the audio numbers are way up, the video numbers are way down. I don't know why. That's happening. So I do want to say thank you to everybody involved in helping make the show go, and to Sean Anger and his family. We hope you guys feel better.
I can't wait to have you guys on. And congratulations on your new...
Absolutely. And until we meet again, my friends, from No Label Brewing and Katy. Cheers.